What's going on, everybody? This is Tyler Posey. Today I'm here with BuzzFeed, and I'm gonna be talking about my first times. First celebrity crush, Salma Hayek. In the movie The Desperado, starring Antonio Banderas. I was like 5 years old when I watched it, and it blew my mind. In the movie, he walks around with a guitar case filled with guns, and my older brother played guitar, and he had an acoustic guitar case, and I would fill it with water guns and put them in my diaper. Is that old to wear a diaper? They were like pull-ups, you know? And I would walk around my house shooting my family with water. First time I realized I was famous, I was at a Chipotle. I don't remember with who. Could have been Dylan O'Brien. Could have been. Probably not though. And the girl behind the counter recognized me and then came out of the counter and gave me a hug, or I took a picture with her or something like that. But there was also another moment when I was 10 years old after I filmed the movie Made in Manhattan, and I went to Six Flags Magic Mountain with my friends, and we were on a log ride, and there were 5 of us, but only 4 could fit on a log ride. So I was like, you guys go, I'll hang out, I'll hang back. And so I got a log ride by myself, which I thought was really cool in the moment. And then we were like, finished the ride, and we were pulling up to the dock, and I was by myself, and there was some dude, older guy, I was 10, so everyone was older. He was like, hey, you're that kid from Made in Manhattan, right? Pretty sure I was like, no, and I like shrank and got really uncomfortable and nervous. And that was the day my anxieties began. The first person who believed in me, definitely my parents, yeah, people. They were my biggest supporters my entire life growing up. I was a weird kid. I was very creative and artistic, and you know, I was an actor and a musician, or wannabe musician, and I would always sing my songs to my parents. I would write. Yeah, definitely my parents. I don't know if that's a cliche thing, but they were my biggest supporters. I've heard a lot of people in my position who wanted to be actors or musicians when they were kids, and their parents were like, you gotta be a doctor or something else. So I didn't go through that, thankfully. They rocked, and still do. Okay, the first song that I ever wrote, I think I was about like 10 or 12 years old. It's a weird song. It goes, today I woke up a different person. It seems like I have no reason to live. Up with 100 excuses, and I'm so goddamn useless. Once cool with a total mojo, no more. 1, 2, 3, go. I was a punk fan as a kid, and still am, and so I think there was some punk influence behind that. Pretty cool. My parents allowed me to cuss when I was a kid, so I started early. My first music inspiration is a tough one. There's a lot of them. My dad took me to a Peter, Paul, and Mary concert when I was a kid. Puff the Magic Dragon. And then my dad introduced me to Layla by Derek and the Dominoes, or Eric Clapton, and I fell in love with that song. But definitely Blink-182 is the band that changed my life. I was 7 years old when I discovered them at my friend's birthday party, and I was bouncing on a trampoline, and I fell in love with that band. I think partly because I was a kid and I was working out of the country in Canada. I was by myself basically, and I just got all Blink CDs, DVDs, documentaries, posters, and I just like, they became my best friends. Is that sad? And yeah, Blink-182 totally changed my life. Yeah, I had Travis Barker played on one of my songs just recently. I did a movie with Tom DeLonge. He directed me in like a short film, and I still keep in touch with him, much to his disapproval. Text him all the time. What's up, dude? The first day on set of Teen Wolf, I remember it being freezing. So we filmed in Atlanta, Georgia. So our first lacrosse day, we were with Orny Adams. Me and Dylan O'Brien were with Orny Adams, who plays our coach. And yeah, it was freezing, and it was so cold that our lips weren't, you know when you're like freezing and you try to speak and your lips don't move? But we were having the greatest time. We were like 18 years old, like freshly turned 18 years old, and Orny's this comedian and like saying all these really weird, creepy jokes, and we loved it. And you know, craft service was there. You know, craft service is great. Eating all the food. Jeff Davis, the creator of the show, since he hired me a trainer, because you know, werewolves are supposed to be buff, he would follow me to the craft service table and be like, you can't eat that, you can't eat that, you can't eat that. First impressions of my Teen Wolf co-stars. So I met most of them at the audition process when we were all still auditioning for our roles. Like I was auditioning and there was another kid auditioning for Scott. Dylan was auditioning for Styles. There was another kid auditioning for Styles. Tyler Hecklin was auditioning for Derek. There was another person reading for Derek. But Crystal Reed was the only person that was reading for Allison. The second I walked into the room, I was wearing a Hurley sweater, which is like a skate surf company. And then Dylan was wearing a DVS shirt, which is a skateboard company. It was like the first pair of skateboard shoes I ever bought when I was a kid. And he had a buzzed head, and I was like, this kid looks cool. I immediately was like, all right, what's this kid's deal, you know? Because as an actor, I grew up in a small town. But skateboarding was like the biggest thing in that town. And I loved skateboard, I loved punk rock, and I didn't really fit in with other actors. And so this was the first time I saw another actor who was like, seemed like a normal kid like me. And then I found out that he was, you know, he grew up in a surf town and skated with his friends and played in a band, and we fell in love that day. Like, we started fantasizing about like, dude, if you get this role and I get this role, we're gonna move to Atlanta and I'm gonna bring a drum set and I'm gonna bring my guitar and we're gonna start skating and whatever. So we really hit it off in like a lot of ways, and we got each other's numbers that day. We still weren't sure if we had booked the show yet, and then later that day we found out. But yeah, Tyler Hecklin, I met previously also on another show that we did called Lincoln Heights. I was like, hey dude, what's going on? And he was like, he just seemed like this dad to me. Like, he was like our dad. Like, he was already 20 years older than us, even though he was like 22 at the time or something like that. Yeah, Crystal was just, you know, obviously a very pretty person, a great actress. You know, it was fun to like act with her. I loved them. There was no bad one in the bunch, except for me. What's up, dude? Okay, yeah, so the first friend I made on set of Teen Wolf, I really fell in love with the crew. We had stand-ins that we became really friendly with. There's this one dude named Josh in Atlanta. He became like one of our best friends, and he would always fly out to my birthdays. Like, we started this tradition where he would come to my birthday at my 21st birthday in Vegas. And then he just kept coming out, and he became one of my best friends. And I have no idea what the hell he did. I still have no idea. Set decorator or something like that. The first role that I really wanted and auditioned for, but I didn't get, the like original Spy Kids. I remember auditioning for Spy Kids and I didn't get that role. I'm still pissed off about it. I'm gonna call my therapist. I didn't get very far in the audition process. I remember I taped it it was like the first tape I had ever done. I was in my garage. I was like, I don't know, I was really young. I was like 8 years old or something. And I was in my garage. And I remember my mom was filming me. That was it. We sent it in and we never heard back from them. And then I saw the movie and I was like, wait a second. I said that line in an audition. And then that was the beginning of the worst days of my life. First famous friend I made in Hollywood, it was Miley Cyrus, but I was filming in Canada. So I was filming a TV show in Canada where I fell in love with Blink-182. And her dad was the star of my TV show, which was Doc, and he Billy Ray Cyrus. And we were kids. I was 9, she was 8. I befriended Miley. She was like the only person my age. And so we would like go to museums, we would hang out all the time, write music, do stupid stuff with each other that little kids do. Yeah, she kissed me. I remember there was one time we were like in her house. She was like, do this. I was like, okay. She's like, no, not that. Like this. And I was like, what? And then eventually I realized that she was like trying to make me do a kissy face. And then she kissed me. She planted a big one right on my mouth. And I loved it. We were dating also. She was my first girlfriend, so. Yeah, my first kiss, I guess technically was Miley, you know? It was very awkward and very young and juvenile and cute and sweet and wholesome. So aside from that, you know, as a kid in junior high, everyone's talking about making out. You know, you made out yet? You go to the movies and you make out. There was a girl in my friend group who like hadn't kissed anybody yet or something like that. And I was bragging. I was like, yeah, I've kissed a bunch of times. And I actually at that point had never made out with anybody. This is the first time I'm saying this. My whole reputation is about to be ruined right now. And I never made out with anybody, but I was like, you know, yeah, I make out all the time, dude. Yeah, I made out with her, made out with her. I remember she was like, okay, well, let's do it, you know? I can't remember how it started, but like we were gonna make out. And we did. Like I went in and we started kissing. I think I got like flushed and nervous, and so I like pulled away. But I think I blamed her for biting my lip, which she didn't. I was like, oh gosh, you bit my lip. So that's it. So yeah, I'm a fraud. There you go, BuzzFeed. Sucks. First time I was starstruck, I think, was either Mark Hoppus backstage at a concert, and I was drunk, and I walked up to him and I was like, tapped him on the shoulder, and I was like, hey, just wanted to say I'm like a huge, huge, huge fan. And he's like, awesome, dude. 1 second. And he like turned around and walked away. I was like, I was probably really drunk and stupid. And no, I wouldn't want to talk to me either, you know? Also, I love you, Mark Hoppus, so much. But I think also there was a time I was doing the Scream Awards for Fox, I can't remember, because I was presenting an award and I was backstage and Quentin Tarantino and Nicolas Cage were having a conversation with each other. And I just wanted to be a fly on the wall so bad for that conversation because it would have been the craziest conversation ever. But I was like, I'm a huge fan of Quentin Tarantino. And I was like, hey man, I just want to say like, big fan of you. He's like, oh, thanks man, yeah, Tyler, okay, awesome, very nice to meet you. He was really sweet, it was awesome. First on-set memory, working with J-Lo, Jennifer Lopez, in Made in Manhattan. We were in the Bronx, I think, filming, and I was in my trailer, and her trailer was kind of across the street from mine. the big extravagant luxurious trailer, and I was in this little tin can, but I loved that tin can. There was like a group of people surrounding her trailer and also a fire truck. The firemen were on their PA system saying, J-Lo, J-Lo, like enticing her to come outside. And then I remember I told her, I was like on set, and I was like, did you hear the firefighters screaming your name to come outside? She's like, no, I didn't hear that. But yeah, that was a weird one. Then there was also another time where we got into a van with her. Like we were filming and then we got into a van and then people started like rocking the van. Like we had all these fans come up to her. It was crazy, it was scary, I was frightened. This poor little 10-year-old boy is pooping his pants. And that was the beginning of the worst day of my life. And I'm still pooping my pants. Thank you, BuzzFeed. Those were my firsts, and hopefully some fresh answers in there. I had a lot of fun. Thank you for joining. Make sure you check out my EP, Drugs, and also come hang out with us on tour. I'm on the Internet Killed the Rockstar tour with Mod Sun and girlfriends. We're all under the Big Noise label. Come hang out, wear your mask, wear your underwear. Please wear your underwear, and I'll see you there.